Here to explain how Lone Stars can help champion your titles is Jennifer Hubbs. After 15 years as a teacher librarian, indie bookseller, and professional reviewer, Jen now calls ESSA Public Library home. She works there with a diverse community focusing on readers advisory, collection management, and acquisitions. A member of the Lone Stars Steering Committee, she continues to recruit librarians across Canada to the program. Please welcome Jennifer Hubbs.
So what I'm going to show for you today is a little bit of information about Lone Stars and about what librarians are looking for and how that you can market your books to librarians and libraries in order to get them out there and being read by as many people as possible. So what is Lone Stars, first of all? It's essentially what Library Reads is in the States. It's the 10 hottest books that are published. It's as voted on by library staff across Canada. It's a list that's published monthly. We are coming up to our 1-year anniversary. Survived, this is good. Essentially, at this point, we are working with adult fiction and adult nonfiction books. It gives librarians the chance to read them ahead of time and to recommend and to vote for their top choices. It is also a collaborative readers advisory service and a marketing tool for all library staff. Speaking of which, did you know that RA Day is happening on April 21st? Just letting you know, it's out there. So, who's involved? People like this. So this could be your next book champion. You don't know. Any employee of a Canadian library can be involved. Public, educational, First Nations, otherwise. General figures are that there's just shy of 600 different library services in Canada from coast to coast. At present, over 220 of them are signed up for the Lone Stars program. And that's library groups, so not librarians. In terms of NetGalley statistics, there's around, I was chatting today, and I think it was 36,000 Canadians signed up for NetGalley, 32,000, 36,000. Approximately 20% of those are also signed up, but that's self-selected. There's a number of librarians who may call themselves reviewers and have chosen to go that designation. We figure it's a little higher, probably around 25 to 30%. So you're looking at a fairly decent size of the market for that. With multiple participants from the system, we have over 900 active participants and another, I'd say 300 to 400 that are sort of intermittent depending on their schedules, and that number grows every month. So who's behind it? People like you. This does not survive without the support of everybody behind it. So thanks to BookNet Canada, to all the people up here on the screen, these are the people who are involved. And we have a small but mighty group of librarians who are very vocal in our libraries talking about this. Before we find books, here's a couple of things you need to know. We are always reading 2 months ahead of time, at least. So at the end of March, we will be selecting the books that will be on the May list. End of April for June, and May for July. Eligible books must be new releases. We don't do re-releases. We don't do books going to trade paperback or mass market, and they have to be offered by one of our participating partners. It's been a little uncomfortable at a few occasions. We've found books that we really want to recommend, and because they're not part of the program and on Catalyst, we haven't been able to recommend them and vote for them on the list. So make sure you're on Catalyst, that's all I can say. How it happens is librarians sign up, they log on to Catalyst to find new titles, and then here's where you step in. They need to request copies to read. I'm going to show you a couple of screens because what we see is different from what you put forward on Catalyst, and you need to know what we're looking at so that you know what information is out there and what's useful. The books are read before the deadline, and we can vote for as many books as we feel are eligible for that session. So some people vote for 1, other people, such as myself, may vote for 4 or 5. I know librarians who their whole job is selections, and they are reading all the time. So this is their chance to do, and they vote for as many as 8 or 10. So get them out there. This is what it looks like. When they go on, they will see a screen that gives them a list of all the different catalogs. Once they choose a book, they'll pop up in a screen like this, and you will notice, I'm going to try the laser pointer here. There we go. They have a choice. They can say read me or vote. If they click on read me, 2 options will happen. One will say request from NetGalley, and one will say request from publisher, depending on your status. Some people I know don't like to use NetGalley. They are our partner in this. We appreciate all the work they give for us, but we do understand that NetGalley may not be for everyone. There are a number of publishing partners that I work with who, if I click on request from publisher, they will send me a digital download link, and I actually prefer that. When the screen pops up to request from publisher, it looks like this. And you'll see that we're given the option at the top, digital, print, or any format. We are strongly advocating with librarians to choose digital. We are stressing to them the importance of getting the copies in their hands more quickly, having more time to read them, and potentially having a better copy. We have stressed to our librarians that print copies are expensive, they take time to arrive, and they are often first-pass pages, whereas digital copies they receive may also be first-pass pages, but they may also be further along in the editing process. A little anecdote, I have a librarian who came up to me at the Ontario Library Association with a 2.5-page email that she'd written to the publisher to A, thank them for letting her read the book, but B, with a critique of all the editorial errors that there were in the pages she received. And I had to gently explain that that was very sweet, but they had likely been caught by the publisher by now because the book was being published the next week. So librarians don't necessarily understand that. They think they're being helpful, but they are itching to pull out that red pen and do what they can. So the further along in the process it is, the better. And if we can get a digital copy to them that's a little further along, so much the better. So we are stressing digital with our librarians. It's for speed and also for accuracy. So in addition to that, there's also a mailing list that goes out from our Lone Stars Committee. This mailing list has been incredibly helpful to the members. If you are not part of it or you're not submitting to it, please speak to people at BookNet and the Lone Stars program. I can't tell you the effect that this reminder email has. There's a little note that talks about the mail list is coming up, make sure you vote, reminder of the process, a reminder that just because it's not on NetGalley doesn't mean that it's not available. Contact the publisher. And most importantly at the bottom of this email, recommendations, titles they may not have considered. There's usually around 12 different titles from a variety of different publishers, small presses, indie presses, large presses, of titles that are interesting, that are likely, I'm not going to say overlooked, but maybe titles that librarians haven't considered because they're not the big names. And I will tell you myself, I have clicked on request on at least 2 or 3 of the titles from this particular email because there were things that I might have skimmed over and missed, but they've caught my eye. Who doesn't want to read Andrew Kaufman? Come on. And again, the request, it's on the bottom. You can view the title in Catalyst and request it. How do we get the word out there to our patrons about this? Pretty simply, we're librarians. We like in-library promotions. So there are printable posters such as this that pop up. We do in-library displays, book stickers, bookmarks, word of mouth. Our catalogs are automatically marked with the Lone Star winners. So when our patrons are searching books in the title, it will come up with a Lone Star symbol beside it so they know it's a pick. I will tell you that May and June, we are entering into what I call book club season. In other words, the time when every book club in the world is trying to set their schedule for next year. And they are coming to their local libraries and trying to find books that they can read and recommend. This is the time when the Lone Star lists are becoming incredibly popular. We have run off multiple lists for people because they want books that have been recommended that they may not have considered. So I have 10 months worth of lists that I can print off and they're in a binder and all the book clubs are going through them and making recommendations to purchase those books. I have libraries that are asking to purchase book club sets because they know they're going to be requested. So there's a lot of added benefits that we didn't see in the beginning that are starting to come forward out of this. A lot of high school teachers are coming to us looking for alternatives to the curriculum, especially Canadian content. Books that we see on Catalyst that are Canadian are marked with a Canadian flag, so we have that ability to recommend those to our teaching companions. I'm very fortunate the public library where I work, my home base, is actually attached to a local high school. So we are in close communication with the high school and also with the board, so we do a ton of work with them. So BiblioCommons has been very supportive and also adding the information. And they are always part of our newsletters to our patrons. So what are the benefits for you? You get to meet Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling, apparently. We've had a lot of media support. Quill & Quire has been wonderful, but also the Star, as you can see, did a profile on the program. That's my colleague Kat there from Hamilton, looking all very excited. But seriously, this is a way for you to create buzz for your titles. Maybe some new authors that you haven't had a chance to get out there in front of people. Cultivate relationships with libraries and librarians. They're going to champion your books. Here's the thing about librarians. Once we find an author we like, we're pretty forgiving. We're going to try and read and recommend that book as much as possible. And when we get people hooked on it, we're going to keep going. It's building your content knowledge across the country. Right now, we have librarians voting for Lone Stars, literally from Vancouver Island to Newfoundland, and from north to south. So it is a cross-Canada promotion. It's a great way to get names of new authors out there and to get those authors into libraries for presentations. If they can get on a Lone Star list, it's a great recommendation. So, how can you help? Direct digital art functionality, that was the request from BookNet that I put that in there. Ensure that your books are available for review at least 3 months prior. We're good, but we need time to read. Allow access to the catalogs as early as possible. Subscribe to your Lone Stars mailing list. Offer support materials, sample chapters, whatever you can. If you are willing, I know many of you have been kind and considerate in offering prize packs for librarians to encourage them to read. If you are willing to offer support materials for book clubs or anything like that, let us know. We need to know this. The more information we have, the more we can provide to our public. And how successful has it been? BookNet's awesome in so many ways because they provide all these amazing infographics, and I love this one. So, you can see here that out of the first 8 Lone Stars lists that were published in 2016, we had 10 shortlist nominations that ended up on our lists. So 10 books that were selected by the Lone Stars committee members 2 to 3 months in advance ended up on award committee lists. We're not psychic, we're not good, but we know good writing, and we can recognize these things. So we had books in the hands of patrons before they actually made it onto award lists, which was much appreciated. Examples of that are By Gaslight by Stephen Price, The Best Kind of People by Zoe Whittle, The Parcel and The Break, which is now currently a Canada Reads nominee, and of course, Do Not Say We Have Nothing, which was read by Lone Stars people back in April before any of the nominations, and was championed by librarians across the country. I'm not saying that every book is going to end up on an awards list, but it could be an award-winning book for a particular library, and it's your chance to find them. So, where can you find us? This is our locations. I will say that the social media support for Lone Stars has been fantastic. They're great at retweeting, mentioning books, getting books out there in front of librarians, mentioning stuff on Twitter. Talk to your Lone Stars people at BookNet. They have been phenomenal and such a great support for this program. We also have fabulous librarians who are retweeting and getting the information out there, and there's a whole series of chain emails between librarians across the country discussing books they've read. There is a particular librarian in Vancouver who I think is one of my favorites. She has no qualms of saying, I have read the following 8 books, and these 6 are stellar, these 2 are not my cup of tea, but I know patrons are going to love them. And that's the kind of information we need from librarian to librarian. So the more you get your books in front of us, the more we can discuss them with each other, and the more we can get them in the hands of patrons who then love them and are going to buy them. So, questions, comments, life-altering concerns? I know I've gone through this pretty quickly, but absolutely. That was the first thing that actually librarians requested, was a YA and a children's section. We wanted to give the program a year with adult and nonfiction and fiction just to see how it was running and to work out kinks. Now that we've had a year under our belt, we can go back and revise. We do have a steering committee meeting in April, and I think that's one of the topics up for discussion. So I think the difficulty we have is we don't want to thin the votes too much. We want to make sure if we have a YA or a children's section that we are actually bringing in more librarians so that we have a contingent to read those as well. So it's definitely on the radar, and then one of the first things librarians asked for. Yes. So.
I was just curious, do the librarians that participate as reviewers, are they sharing their thoughts as individuals, or are they representing their organizations in a sort of an official capacity?
A bit of both, a bit of both. I can speak to the county that I work at. It started off that there were 3 of us and we were acting individually. We now have basically a group who meets once a month and we talk about the books that we've read. So the votes are made individually based on what we know our patrons will like and what we have enjoyed ourselves. However, with these discussions, we're finding that collaboratively we're finding books that might fit our area and our region, and I know that there are particularly groups in Hamilton, in Guelph, in Waterloo, and out in BC that are doing the same kind of thing. So, in French language? We would love to expand it into the French language. Yeah, again, as I said, we were in the pilot project for the first year, and we went from that. I know that that's definitely on the horizon and something we would love to include. Again, we would want to bring in more librarians of different backgrounds and different areas so that we could have sufficient votes. So, yeah, for sure. And,
So has nonfiction been part of this from the beginning, or was that
It has, yes. We found that nonfiction was a little slow to take off in the beginning. Librarians, by the nature of the beast, tend to be focused more on the fiction aspects. However, as we've brought more librarians on board, and especially librarians who may be not necessarily circulation clerks, but in the back end of things, we're finding the nonfiction requests are rising, and a few more nonfiction titles are actually making it to the list. And that's something we're looking at. We're quite pleased to see.
energy of this not to be more focused on Canadian authors?
I think it's a really great question, actually. I think when we started off, it was simply a matter of just trying to entice librarians to join. So we wanted to have the broadest spectrum of books that we could have. So we selected adult, fiction, and nonfiction, and we just left it at that. I will say that, was it within 3 months? Not even 3 months. Librarians were requesting they wanted Canadian titles identified. And that very quickly happened, and that every Canadian book that's actually identified has a Canadian flag beside it. As to making it a strictly Canadian list, I think I actually really like the idea myself. I think you're right, and we need to promote our Canadian content. I think that's something up for discussion with the other librarians as well.
It did come up at the steering committee initially, and there was feeling that they wanted it to be as broad and wide as it could be. And we've been finding interestingly that there's usually at least 4 Canadian books out of 10 on every list. Sometimes it's half of them. So the representation really has been there. It took a little bit to build that.
I will say that initially, when you went on Catalyst, the catalogs were listed as adult fiction and adult nonfiction. By request from the librarians, we have then taken adult fiction and broken them down into more genre-based categories. So we have a mystery category, we have, cooking, all the different categories, but one specifically for Canadian literature, because we have a large number of librarians who want to specifically focus on reading Canadian literature. And I can see that shifting over time, for sure. It is something, and that was by request by the librarians involved in the program. So. Mm-hmm.
So Jen, does that mean that if there's a Canadian authored mystery, it will appear on a Canadian list, or a mystery list, or both?
It could be in both, yeah, absolutely. However you've coded it, whatever your data is for it, then that is it. And it will appear also in the general list. So we have subcategories within the major lists. So in the adult fiction list, it will show up there. It will also show up if you have the data listed for mystery. It will also show up under Canadian. So Catalyst is great in that there's a lot of books on there, as you well know. It's very good at telling me, oh, you've already requested this book. So I'll read something and think, that's fantastic, and I'll jot it down in my notebook, and I'll go to request it, and it will say, yeah, you've already done that. So, and usually that's the case if it's something like a book that's request only from the publisher. So I haven't necessarily heard back, or the publisher is sending me a digital version, and I haven't received it yet, that kind of thing. Yes?
And on the newsletter, there were a couple titles listed.
Yes.
What's the selection?
That's a really good question. I might pass that over. Selection?
We asked for publishers to submit some recommendations to us, and we'll try to have a good representation of Canadian and multinational nominate. I can't say that there's a place to
I will say that the list is, from my recollection of the past few in particular, very diverse in terms of publishers. It is not exclusively from one publishing house or another. They try to make it extremely broad, to make it a nice mix of large and small publishers, indies, that kind of thing. So it's not a focus on one or the other. So you don't feel like there was some massive backroom deal that happened to get one publisher's books on the newsletter instead of the other.
for the book clubs, but is there other ways that you promote the list in your library or
Mm-hmm.
the libraries that you go to?
Absolutely, yeah. We have our consortium of libraries is quite large and covers a broad spectrum. So in addition to just physical placement of the lists around the library and also options for book clubs, we have a good sense of who the book club leaders are in our area, and they meet with us on a regular basis, and they know the resources that are available. So as I said, we have a binder with every list that's available. We also ensure that we set them up in a private room with a little laptop so they can go through our catalog and read descriptions of all of the books. We want them to have the best and the most up-to-date information as possible. We also try to source who has the books for them, if not, and what it would take for us to get the books if we don't already have them in terms of a book club set. Book clubs are becoming more and more sophisticated, and while there are some that prefer to have us work through the interlibrary loan system, they would much rather have us borrow a full set of 15 or 20 books. We're finding the book clubs capping at around 18 to 20 people. Anything more than that, and even I would find that a little unwieldy. I would prefer something more around the 12 to 15 person limit. But multiple book clubs are also happening, so we're in the process of developing world issues book clubs, multi-generational book clubs between seniors and high school students. We're doing books, so we need books that work for both levels there. We're doing a men's book club, which I know we should not be categorizing by gender, but it's happening. Men's book clubs, women's book clubs. We have the book clubs where they go and they meet and they discuss the books that are going to be turned into movies. We have the book clubs where they're going just for the wine. Nothing wrong with that. Totally fine. I am the person who brought the chocolate after all, so. Like I said, we're staying in touch with them. We have mailing lists that go out to them. We have postings on our websites. We use social media. Every time a new Lone Stars list is posted, we retweet that and we send that in a MailChimp style subscription out to our book club leaders and also to a number of other people in the community, such as librarians at high schools, et cetera, who also post that information. So we have a fairly good social content in the moment. Right. I know that, and I won't speak to it because there are other people in the room who are far more experienced than I. I know NetGalley can give you more specifics on the demographics of the people that probably use NetGalley, and that is a portion of the people who are signed up with Catalyst. So that's actually interesting information. I don't know how freedom of information loving librarians would love to share their own personal information about themselves, but I think it would be interesting at least to see their role in the library or how long they've been a librarian or something like that. I will speak completely unscientifically and say that in our collective, when I had a number of, forward-facing librarians the ones who deal with the public on day-to-day, who signed up immediately. When I did presentations to other library sources and library groups, I had a lot of library techs and people behind the scenes who signed up, and that's when I noticed an uptick in the number of nonfiction in our area and the discussions about nonfiction books. So I will say that there's two, for me, there seems to be two core groups of readers within Lone Stars. There are the people who know what they like and they like what they know, and they read those books. So they like mysteries, they like literary fiction, they like whatever it is. And then there are people that are seeing this as an opportunity to break out of their boundaries. And they love the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, that book sounds great, and I would never have picked it up in a million years. I want to read it and see what it's like because I want something different to recommend to our patrons. And I'm hoping, from the sense that I'm getting, it seems to be that the first group is small and mighty, but the second group is growing every day. And that's what we hope. We hope that they are broadening their boundaries and having a chance to explore things and to find books that they might not otherwise discover. Because really that's the point. Everyone benefits if they can find something new and exciting that they can herald and champion in their own libraries.
So do you know what the impact that this has had on the books that you've recommended in terms of the number of copies that are in the public library system?
I can speak to our library system and say there's definitely been an uptick in those. We've certainly purchased far more copies, and we've noticed an interest in purchasing copies from our patrons. So they're using it, funnily enough. Christmas time, it was a really great gift buying suggestion for a lot of our patrons who used it to purchase gifts for family and friends, which, again, not something I would have figured, but I suppose if it's recommended by a librarian, how can you go wrong? So,
I'm a school librarian, and when I missed the title of Lone Stars, someone will request it, so I just told our vendor to just buy at least 3 copies of everything on the list, regardless of what it is. So we have everything.
wow. Wow. I will say in conversation with the steering committee, ultimately, we'd love to see two lists as we branch out. We'd love to see an adult fiction list and an adult nonfiction list, and extend that to YA and children's books. With children's books, we understand there's a difficulty there, especially with picture books, because people love the finished copies. They may not understand that the digital copies may actually be a higher quality and something easier for them to read. And we also understand that they're more in a limited supply, and a number of publishers may not be willing to supply those. So, again, why we want to push for digital, so that there's a better chance of librarians having those in their hands to read. Well, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, do feel free to contact me. As I said, I'm on Twitter and through my email, Lost in Great Book on Twitter, and I would be happy to discuss Lone Stars with you and any questions or comments you might have. Thanks so much.